Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. People seem to enjoy the video we did a little while back on the five cult albums you might not have heard of. I'm not talking about the cult, the band, but cult albums. It's kind of we talked about it last time. It's not hard to define, but records that you don't hear on the radio, but have a strong, loyal following, and you know, I mean, it's kind of a loose definition. Anyway, people seem to have kind of fun with that. If you're interested in the five I picked in that video, you can go watch that video. But I've got five more, five more cult albums, and this is kind of cool. This is an eclectic bunch, going from the '60s all the way to the '90s. So I I'm not ranking or any counting down or anything. I think we'll just go in chronological order. So we'll start with the earliest and move, chronologically. So, first, from 1968, from Bloomfield Cooper Stills Super Session. Now, Bloomfield being Mike Bloomfield, Cooper being Al Cooper, Stills being Stephen Stills. And it's kind of a misnomer because the three of these guys actually don't play together, on any song on this album. It's basically side one is Cooper and Bloomfield, and side two is Cooper and Stills. And so the story with this is, Al Cooper and Mike Bloomfield already knew each other pretty well. They had, of course, played on Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited album. They had played with Dylan at his notorious kind of, earth shaking Newport Folk Festival uh, performance where he went electric, right, and changed the world, at least the rock world. And anyway, fast forward a little bit, and Cooper was leaving Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and also I think Electric Flag, right? He was in both. Anyway, I think he'd left both, so he was sort of free, and he felt like playing, so he set up these sessions. He booked a couple days in the studio and got just look at the other people on here: Harvey Brooks on bass, Eddie Ho on drums, and Barry Goldberg on the electric piano. And called up his buddy Mike Bloomfield, and Bloomfield said, "Yeah, I'll come down and jam." So they did. So like the first day, they laid down what is basically the first side of this album, which is I mean it's pretty much instrumental stuff, and some of it is just kind of just great kind of blues rock. His Holy Modal Majesty is reminiscent of the East West, uh, from the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, of course, where Bloomfield played that incredible uh, guitar solo. His Holy Modal Majesty. There's about 9 minutes on here. Kind of sounds like that. And so then, and it's awesome. I mean, the side one's great. Then Bloomfield, kind of notoriously unreliable, just decided he was done and didn't want to show up for the second day that that Cooper had booked. And so Cooper was going to casting about. He knew Stephen Stills was, Buffalo Springfield kind of disintegrating. So he called up Stills, and Stills showed up. And so on the second side is Stills and Cooper working together. And on the second side, there's some vocal tracks. Um, Although, let's see, yeah, it's Cooper actually sings lead. It's not so you don't hear Steven Stills singing, but Stills is on guitar all over the place on that second side, and it's awesome. Stills plays a lot of his kind of Buffalo Springfield like country rock stuff, but then there's this like 11-minute version of Donovan's Season of the Witch, which is this real kind of moody psychedelic version of that. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, if you're a guitar fan, Mike Bloomfield is one of the great guitar, kind of blues rock guitar players. Stephen Stills is, I've talked about Stills a lot and my love of his guitar playing. And so this is this is a great guitar record and kind of a great jam record. I mean, they're really kind of exploring here. Okay, moving to 1974. The next cult album here is from Shuggie Otis. Inspiration Information. There's Shuggie. Now, if you're not familiar with Shuggie Otis, this really is like, I mean, this is kind of like the definition of a cult album. So Shuggie Otis was, well, his father was Johnny Otis, kind of the famous R&B kind of jazz guy, and Shuggie was kind of this child prodigy. I mean, in his early teens, he was already playing in his dad's bands. To get into the nightclubs, he'd put on a fake mustache and put shades on so he'd look older so he could play. And he was sort of this prodigy, multi instrumentalist. I compare him to kind of Prince in a way. Like he could play a ton of instruments. He's a killer guitar player. He could kind of jump style to style. He was this sort of enigmatic figure. And Prince actually, was a fan of Shuggie Otis, not surprisingly. And Shuggie made like 3 records in the early to mid 70s and then just stopped. And he didn't make another record till when I wrote it down here, 2018, where he kind of reemerged. So he really has been this sort of mysterious figure. He at some point in the 70s, the Rolling Stones approached him to maybe be their second guitar player. He turned them down. He turned the Stones down. He turned Quincy Jones down. Quincy Jones wanted to produce him, and yeah, so Shuggie just kind of like Prince, in a lot of ways, just the beat of his own drummer. But so Shuggie Otis plays every instrument on here other than some strings and I think there's some horns and stuff. But he plays the drums, the bass, the guitar, sort of keyboards. And so this really is kind of Shuggie Otis. And it's this, man, it's awesome. It's this awesome mix of kind of soul, R&B, psychedelic. I mean, it's really hard to explain, but it's really worth searching out, and it has really obtained or cult status, since it came out. I think it was in the 1990s when people sort of rediscovered this, and there's like I said, there's kind of this psychedelic tinge soul. Awesome, it's awesome. Okay, going from there, what's next? 1982. Some world music. Now this actually was pretty big for a while, but it's from Africa, and so I mean, again, not hitting the mainstream American charts or anything. But King Sunny Ade, I think I'm saying that right, Ade, King Sunny Ade and his African beats, Juju music. So King Sunny Ade is, I mean, legendary Nigerian musician. And this record did kind of break through internationally. Man, it's hard to explain what this sounds like. I mean, it's a classic of Afro pop and really a precursor to kind of breaking through, the huge world music. Uh, I guess, when world music really becomes popular in the United States and elsewhere, this was sort of on the forefront of that. But I don't know. I think a lot of people might not have heard of it, but I mean, it is fantastic. I mean, he is a legend in his home, Nigeria. I counted. It's kind of hard to you have different lists. Kind of like 21 musicians on here. This is a full sound. I mean, congas and bongos and drums and talking drums, and so these polyrhythms that you would expect coming out of Nigerian music. But then he throws in, a bunch of kind of live, rhythm guitars in there. There's a pedal steel, which is really strange. It's almost like this sort of Hawaiian sound in there, and then these kind of synthesizers. It's this incredibly thick but light at the same time, kind of polyrhythmic brew, and it's just mesmerizing. absolutely mesmerizing. Now, a lot of it's sung in his language. I don't understand what the songs are, but it doesn't really matter though. I mean, it all just kind of creates this really fantastic sound. And again, it's kind of light, relaxed, but you can also dance to it, and it's just you put it on and it can be great kind of in the background or dance music. But if you want to sit and really focus and concentrate on it, it can be fascinating too. It sort of serves all those purposes. But there you go. All right, my next one. 2 years later, 1984. Now stick with me on this because I'm going to say this guy's name and you're going to be, what? This is a brilliant album. I love this record. Talking about Thomas Dolby, The Flat Earth. Thomas Dolby's The Flat Earth. This is a fascinating record. You might think Thomas Dolby, the She Blinded Me with Science guy. Yeah, that guy. And that's not even on this album. So this is, yeah, it's hard. God, it's hard to describe this record. Cinematic would be a good way to describe it. Really great moods. I'm actually a fan. I'm a fan of Thomas Dolby. I think he's very underrated. He has several really great records, honestly, and this is one of them. Starts off with Dissidence with that great bass on there. The title track, "The Flat Earth," I mean, is just a beautiful song. It stretches out. I forget the time on it, but 7 minutes or something. So it's kind of a longer tune. But man, it's one of those songs that I'd be happy if it went for 20 minutes. I mean, it's just got this great groove to it, and just, I don't know, it's kind of mesmerizing sound. Screen Kiss is gorgeous. It's a great song. It's kind of this melancholy, nostalgic in some ways, for old Hollywood. The second side's a little more eclectic. That first side is actually perfect. Second side, White City, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna skip one track. I Scare Myself is great. That's actually a cover, I think. Is that Dan Hicks? I believe. Yeah, it's a Dan Hicks song, actually. Great cover. And Hyperactive, which was the hit on here. And it's sort of a, taken on its own, almost like a novelty song, kind of like a novelty follow up to his other hit, which was "She Blinded Me with Science." But I mean, it's fun. Now, to me, there's one flaw on here. "Mulu the Rainforest" is pretty bad, but put that song aside. The rest of this is really great. Check it out. Check it out. All right, my final pick here for this batch of cult albums. We're going up to 1992. I think on this channel, this may be the first album I have even mentioned from the 90s. So, but anyway, I'm gonna tell you this. This is in my top 10 favorite albums of all time. This record is genius. I might do a deep dive uh, episode just on this record at some point in the future. Well, I'll go ahead and mention it here. A great band, talking about Los Lobos Kiko. Los Lobos Kiko. Los Lobos is one of the great American bands, from the 80s on. Um, yeah, if you're not really familiar with their music, they're incredible musicians, just great Americana. Obviously they bring a lot of their kind of Latin heritage in there, but there's also country music and blues rock and folk and psychedelic stuff. I mean, and all of that is here. This album is so brilliant. It's just, it runs the gamut, of these incredible styles and mixing these styles. So, like I said, on here is traditional Mexican music and blues rockers and folk songs and kind of country rock songs, just psychedelic influenced rockers. I mean, it's just. I think the brilliance of Los Lobos' entire career, you can find here. I mean, if you haven't listened to this record, I, I put my whole reputation on the line. Go listen to this. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like I said, this is probably in my top 10 favorite records of all time. Obviously, I'm going to have to do one of those lists at some point. But Los Lobos Kiko is going to be there. Just brilliant. All right, guys. Well, there you go. That was fun. So another 5 cult records. If you guys like this video, like you like the previous one, I'll keep doing it as a series here and there. I mean, there's plenty more you can pull from. So anyway, please do subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoying our content. Uh, we really appreciate everyone who's gotten on board, and old and new. And let's keep it going. It really helps us do what we want to do here. And hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, all that great stuff. And we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.